Hello, this is Commissioner Susan Krebs from District 5, giving you an update on the Freedom Community Comprehensive Planning Area deferral, which has been in the news lately. Many of you have contacted me concerned about the recent influx of new proposed and approved residential and commercial development within the Freedom Planning Area, which includes Eldersburg, the unincorporated areas of Sykesville and Marriottsville. And I share your concerns. That is the number one reason why I volunteered to take this job. First, I'll give you a little context. Last spring, I volunteered to serve as an interested citizen on the Housing Work Group as part of the 2035 Master Plan update for Carroll County. I soon became concerned about the direction our county was being guided regarding growth and planning. Individuals on our planning staff were totally out of sync with our citizens and unwilling to acknowledge the Carroll County Master Plan and the Freedom Community Comprehensive Plan that we already had adopted after years of community participation and discussion. It soon became obvious that the implementation of the current Carroll County and Freedom Plan and our community's vision for the future were in jeopardy, and a new agenda was being pursued to recommend affordable, high-density housing in our growth areas and have Carroll County taxpayers subsidize these new homes for first-time homebuyers who didn't want to live in more affordable existing resale homes. Not all of us agree with that context. Some of us started in existing resale homes or maybe in affordable apartments. But subsidizing new homes for first-time homebuyers is not a priority of folks in Carroll County. The constant talk of the need to raise taxes on our citizens and other issues that were going on in the state and the county were also troubling to me. We're a prosperous county. Our citizens are very generous with their talents, their time, and their philanthropy. There's no need to raise taxes. We need to look at spending and how we are growing and what our priorities are. New housing of any type cannot be built affordably due to many reasons, and it depends on your definition of affordably. But the definition that we're given, it is impossible to build new housing in this current climate that is considered affordable. One of the biggest reasons are the many mandates that the state of Maryland has put on the development of new homes, like stormwater management requirements, reforestation, sprinklers, energy efficiency, electric vehicle hookups, and so on, which are all mandatory in new homes in the state of Maryland and in Carroll County. These requirements have added tens of thousands of dollars to the cost of new construction. I became concerned that the new narrative being reported in our housing work group did not reflect the views or values of Carroll County citizens that I had represented for over 24 years. It was during that time that the District 5 Commissioner seat became open, and I was encouraged and compelled to step out of my comfortable retirement and try to add a different perspective that would be helpful to the governance of Carroll County. I felt that I had a unique skill set to step in and some institutional background to hit the ground running. I'd worked with all the elected officials in Carroll County in the past and had the benefit of understanding the pressures the state has put on the local jurisdictions, both financially and in policy matters, many of which are not in the best interests of our county. One size does not fit all. I have always been a believer that local control closest to the people is where decisions should be made. First, a little context on how Carroll County is governed for those of you who are not quite sure. First, we have a 5-member Board of Commissioners that handle both the executive and legislative policy arms of Carroll County government and are elected in 5 districts versus at large. There are 9 designated growth areas in Carroll County that have water and sewer capacity where growth is directed. 8 of those growth areas are in the incorporated municipalities of Westminster, the town of Sykesville, Hampstead, Tawnytown, Mount Airy, New Windsor, Union Bridge, and Manchester. The planning and growth in those 8 towns are controlled by a charter form of government, and the citizens elect a mayor and a town council who then appoint their own planning commission and board of zoning appeals. All members who live in their respective towns and are accountable to the communities where they live. They plan for the needs of the community, and they control the growth within their borders. They have local accountability. The Freedom Comprehensive Planning Area, consisting of Eldersburg, Marriottsville, and the zip code of 21784, outside of the incorporated town of Sykesville, it is the only unincorporated growth area that the county commissioners have jurisdiction over. The 5-member Board of Commissioners appoint a Planning and Zoning Commission to oversee the Freedom Area and the other unincorporated areas of the county, which are outside of the towns. They have control over the proposal of land use, definitions, and approval of those. And they get little direction from the Board of Commissioners, at least officially. The county commissioners have little say in the process, historically by choice. Yet we're the body who was elected and are supposed to be accountable to our citizens. I believe that the process is currently broken. None of the other unincorporated areas of the county have much potential for large-scale residential growth because they have no public utilities currently available, like water and sewer capacity. The other unincorporated areas of Carroll County fall under the 2014 Carroll County Master Plan, and they could also be impacted by these zoning definitions that have been changed, especially in the commercially zoned areas like the Finksburg corridor. They're also unincorporated and controlled by the county. However, they do not have public water and utilities, and they have little housing growth because of that limitation, but the new commercial definitions apply there as well, and they've been changed pretty dramatically. The Freedom Community Planning Area growth area is the largest area by landmass and by population, with the next largest growth area being Westminster. However, currently only one member of the Planning and Zoning Commission actually lives in the Freedom area. There's only one commissioner who is elected from the Freedom area, and that is the District 5 commissioner. Now it's me. Soon after being seated in my office, my observations were confirmed that very little progress had been made actually implementing the current Freedom Plan. Even since it was put out in 2001, and then 17 years later updated in 2018, very little progress in any implementation of infrastructure that was supposed to be planned, whether it was roads, recreational areas, or other infrastructure. That was concerning to me. Who's responsible for implementing the plan? The most surprising thing to me was that our taxpayers in Carroll County are actually paying for road connections that developers generally pay for when building new housing and commercial development. After a little research, I found that this is unheard of in our surrounding counties. There are 1,300 new houses working their way through the approval process in the Freedom area. This is the largest influx of new housing since the 1990s. Dozens of new commercial projects, like large 3- and 4-story storage facilities, adjacent to existing homes and neighborhoods, are working their way through the approval process. All of this has been allowed by new zoning definitions that were put in place with no community participation throughout the COVID era. These projects are now allowed because of these new definitions. I have vowed to protect your family's home and investment, which is being challenged by nameless and faceless people who have changed and applied rules which have the potential to change the fabric of our communities. Preserving our neighborhoods and our communities and ensuring that we spend your tax dollars prudently is the responsibility of the Carroll County Commissioners. Carroll County citizens have the right to ensure that the growth and vibrancy of our communities is according to the vision of our community and not outsiders and a schooled urban professional planner's idea of the year. No more backroom deals and finger-pointing. The status quo cannot change. We must conduct people's business openly, honestly, and respectfully, and we must follow the plans that we have in place. Accountability is not just a buzzword for me. It will be the foundation on which I operate. Carroll County belongs to its people. Decisive action from our elected Board of County Commissioners is needed right now. Fortunately, the majority of our board is committed to serving its citizens rather than just a few, and we must quickly correct the inconsistencies in our zoning definitions that are not aligned with the community's master plans, as the citizens of Carroll County had clearly stated. We must return to the predictability of how our communities will grow. It should be returned back to our citizens. The Board of Commissioners has supported holding a public hearing to determine if our community supports a temporary deferral for some specific types of large clustered residential, retirement villages, and commercial projects that are working their way through the approval process. The hearing is December 16th at 6 p.m. at the South Carroll Senior Center. This deferral is temporary so that we have time to address the inconsistencies in our zoning code and approval process to ensure that our citizens get the accountability and the communities that they were promised during the Carroll County and Freedom Master Plan process, where hundreds of citizens turned out to meetings to weigh in on the future of our communities. Unfortunately, much of this planning exercise was ignored by some bureaucrats who didn't like how citizens wanted to grow. Thank goodness those people are no longer with county government, and our current planning department is helping us to try to work our way through fixing these problems. The word single-family detached home was considered a dirty word under the old regime. And to some of them, jamming families into high-density communities and retirees into 3-story narrow townhouses with no grass or trees, it seems to be the new thing. But it's not the new thing in Carroll County. The interpretation of the new zoning codes allow for counting state-mandated stormwater management ponds as community open space in new development. That's not what open space is defined in our master plans. A stormwater management pond is not what we would expect. This must change. Mandates by our state government is what's driving up housing costs, and we must push back on that. It's time for strong leadership and accountability to ensure that Carroll County stays safe and vibrant while preserving our agriculture and small-town charm. If you're concerned about the growth in the Freedom area and other unincorporated areas of Carroll County, please join the commissioners at our deferral hearing on Tuesday, December 16th at 6 p.m. at the South Carroll Senior Center. We will be talking specifically about deferring projects that are in progress that deal with 4 items: residential clustering, houses that are allowed to be higher in density and clustered together to provide open space, but it's no longer open space required to be active or usable. As I mentioned before, stormwater management ponds, steep slopes, stream beds, and wetlands are now allowed to be considered an environmental benefit or open space. That never was mentioned during our master plan process. Number 2, retirement villages. Carroll County has no requirement to build anything to support senior living, aging in place, or community active open space, which is exactly why jurisdictions encourage age-restricted housing. We have a large number of people that are very interested in over 55 communities, but that definition of what we're building is not matching what I believe people think that they're going to be getting with age-restricted housing. Narrow 3-story townhomes are the predominant proposals for our over 55 retirement villages. Who wants to live in a 3-story townhome with steps up the front as you age in place? Anything goes. It can be multi-story, 5 and 6 in a row houses, no setback requirements between multi-units, multi-step entrances, and no requirements for visitor parking or for roads to be wide enough to accommodate emergency vehicles. Development has been allowed to build at pre-construction F-level intersections that are failing. They cannot get out, the people that live there. This leaves the county taxpayers on the hook for providing the funding for the roads to be built. The only requirement for retirement villages in Carroll County is allowing them to build 5 times more dwellings on the same property than a conventional land use could be done, and that the resident have to be over 55. But Carroll County does not have any rules to enforce that requirement either. We need to fix it. We need to grow up and fix these definitions to what mature counties do when they have these types of products. We also have a new designation, number 3, we're going to try to fix, is called the Planned Commercial Centers, otherwise known as multi-use, mixed use, with residential on the top and retail on the bottom. Example, the most recent mixed-use experiment is the new project on Route 26 across from Century High School, with bright lights, a vape shop, nail salon on the first level, and apartments upstairs overlooking the retail parking lot. In Carroll County, we have no design standards for any mixed use or planned commercial center. Anything goes, but it sounds good. We need to define exactly what we would like to see in these commercial centers and put some requirements in place for this mixed use. Number 4, large storage facilities in our commercial zoning districts. 90,000 square feet, large, tall storage facilities are now allowed in commercial zoning of C2 districts and C3 districts. Both of these are new land use designations that were undefined in local ordinances when the master plans were adopted. These are now allowed directly next to existing residential homes. Be aware that many other new principal uses are now allowed in these zonings, these commercial C2 and C3 zonings that were not previously allowed, and they're all allowed to be much larger in height and bulk. The entire Route 26 Liberty Road corridor is now zoned either Commercial 2 or Commercial 3, which was previously zoned for local businesses in the area. That neighborhood designation has been eliminated. The commercial zoning around the county has changed dramatically compared to what was allowed previously. Much larger and non-compatible uses are now allowed. Don't wait until there is a shovel in the ground next to your home or neighborhood before you pay attention to the changes that have been approved. I'm committed to assuring that our master plans, which have been adopted, with tremendous input from our citizens, are respected and implemented by those who are responsible for carrying out the vision of our citizens to protect our existing communities. These newly adopted land use definitions impact all the unincorporated areas of the county, everything outside of a town's limits. I have not had the time to consider all the possible problem areas that could attract developers to properties outside of the ones that have already been proposed in the Freedom area. Please do your homework and consider what could potentially be developed near your community. Please support our proposed deferral on the specific types of projects mentioned so that we can get the zoning definitions to be consistent with the intentions of our master plans. I do believe that most developers want to put forth a product that the people want. We need to make sure that our definitions of what can go on which properties is clear and it's what people expect. Please make your voices heard and come to our public hearing on these deferral projects to give us time to rewrite the definitions. We have promised to expedite this and get it done as quickly as possible. The public hearing is December 16th. It's a Tuesday at 6 p.m. at the South Carroll Senior Center. If you can't attend, email your commissioners at carrollcountymd.gov, and ask your particular commissioner to support the deferral and the opportunity to present and adopt zoning definitions that match our master plans for the good of Carroll County citizens and taxpayers. I thank you very much for listening.